Hey there, it's Devta with the Collective Sigh, and today we're going to be practicing Kaiut class number 2 together. And you might remember that Kaiut is taught in a cycle of 100 classes, so we're in the very beginning. We're in the foundational classes. Class 2 builds on a lot of the vocabulary and the concepts and the postures, the shapes that we learn in class number 1, because while the poses, the positions that we put our body in are really important, how we approach these postures, these shapes, is equally as important. So another foundational class. And for this class, you'll need some unobstructed wall space, probably 5 to 6 feet vertically, and then maybe 2 to 3 feet horizontally. And the same amount, or maybe even a little bit more, of unobstructed floor space and a mat, or you can use a rug, and then 1 or 2 pillows to help you out. And we're going to get started with legs up the wall. So for our version of legs up the wall, you bring the hips a comfortable distance from the baseboard and allow the legs to extend up the wall, relaxing the legs so that the feet kind of flop out. And you can either have your hands palms face up at your sides or out to the side. Today, since we're not going to be doing a lot of shoulder work, it might be a good idea to reach them up above and just relax them behind. And you'll notice in Kaiut, we keep our hips a couple of inches away from the baseboard. So usually they say about 6 to 10 inches, but it's all up to you where you are right now, today, in this moment. So if your hamstrings are feeling really tight, then maybe you want to shimmy a little bit further away so that you're not so vertical. But if you, as your distance increases, if you feel like the backs of your knees are feeling too much force, then you can scoot yourself a little bit closer. So find your optimal distance, that place where you're balancing effort, intensity, and sensation, and begin the process of opening your practice. So we start with a deep inhale and exhale. And as you exhale, allow your body to get heavier and heavier. And close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. And breathe. I like to imagine my mat or the rug, or sometimes even the center of the earth, just accepting the weight of my body. That helps me release a little bit more and relax and make me feel okay with my body being heavy on the earth. We want the feet to be relaxed so they kind of flop out to the side. And we begin, and we will come back to this all throughout the class. We begin scanning the body from the toes, working our way part by part down the legs, into the hips, into the belly and the chest, the arms, the neck, the face, the head. And just having a dialogue with these different body parts. And when you notice any kind of tension, or maybe you're unexpectedly holding something. So just now I realized I'm still holding something in my hip flexors. Just allow it to dissolve and release. And this is how we open our practice. This is one of the most foundational positions in Kaiut, and I also have a job as a business process analyst, and I will often choose at my office, because we have hot desks, I'll choose an office that has a door so that at different points during the day, then I can come into Legs Up the Wall and take a break from the back-to-back meetings or just being on the computer deep into a spreadsheet. So this is a refuge that you can come into at any time. So we've been here for about 1.5 minutes, so you may feel your feet losing a little sensation, or they may feel a little tingly, or they may feel a little cold. I'm okay with that as long as you're okay with that. If those sensations ever start to feel overwhelming or distracting, or certainly if they don't feel safe to you, whatever that means to you, then just coming out of the posture by bending your knees and bringing your feet flat on the wall until we finish the pose together. I mentioned before that we are building on some of the vocabulary and the concepts that we established in class number 1. And just to remind you, I'll refer a lot to relaxation, comfort, and restfulness. So relaxation and comfort are physical notions. That's our body when we can relax in a posture like this. But restfulness is the mindset. That's the strategy that we're using. So there are going to be some poses today where you may not be able to be relaxed, but hopefully you'll find a way to be a little bit comfortable, but always bringing an attitude and a mindset of restfulness into each pose. The other concept I want to remind us of is sustainability, the way that we approach each posture. So in Kaiut, we stay in our poses for a bit because we're trying to impact the parasympathetic nervous system, as well as the fascia, the connective tissue that is all along the body. Fascia has really high tensile strength, and so we need to stay in these postures for a bit so that it can stretch properly. So I'd like for you to consider, what if we were holding this posture for the duration of the class? What if we were doing just this for an entire hour? How would I approach it then? So that level of sustainability is the degree of restfulness that we want to bring to each of these postures. And breathe. When you're ready, bend the knees, bring the feet flat onto the wall. Stay here for a moment. We're going to give our backs a little bit of time. Now that we've been flat on the floor for some time, I want to give our spine some time to adjust and adapt. Roll over onto one side. Cradle yourself in a fetal position and just relax here. Take a deep breath in and exhale. You may feel some blood rushing to the back, the spine becoming awake again. And when you're ready, press yourself to come sitting up. And we're going to transition to the next shape, which will be sitting on our bolster. So transition to come sitting on a bolster or pillow, and we'll come into easy pose. And Kaiut's version of easy pose is a little bit different than the traditional. So traditionally, you'll have your heels kind of tucked up underneath you. In Kaiut, we want to provoke a little bit of the restrictions that we feel in our hips. So we distance the heels a little bit further away from us. So the thigh bones should be as straightforward as you can. This is making more of a boxy shape than a diamond shape. So come into your version of this. If you have really restrictive or tight hip flexors, you may find it helpful to sit a little higher on a bolster. If you look at class number 1, you'll see that one of the students took advantage of that greater height. That points her knees down a bit so that she's not protecting the hip flexors, or they're not constricting anymore, but relaxed. So if you're finding that your knees are really high, try a second level and see how that goes for you. For the rest of us, you can either be on a bolster, or if you're very flexible, feel free to sit directly on your mat or on a rug. But staying here, we'll start just by feeling our body again sink directly down into the earth, and then using the eyes to look down, and then we begin rounding the shoulders and then bending forward at the waist. So everyone's body is going to be different. So I encourage you to go as far forward as feels comfortable to you, knowing that in any moment, the direction or your ability to bend forward is going to change, right? So we are stretching fascia, we're stretching muscles, we're stretching ligaments. So the optimal position where we're balancing effort and intensity and sensation is going to change as we stay in a pose or in a posture. And if you're very flexible, you may find that you can reach the floor all the way, and that's great. But if you're like me and you're not there, that's fine, because the floor is not a goal, it's a direction. So we are pointing our forehead in that direction, or relaxing our head in that direction. I can also use the heel of the palm of my hand to press myself back and decrease the intensity of the sensation in my hips, or I can use my fingertips and pull myself forward and increase the sensation. So wherever you find your optimal, just rest there and breathe. So this is our first pose where we have a little bit of effort, and we may have to remind ourselves that we're approaching this with a restful attitude and scanning the body. When you're ready, press yourself to come sitting all the way back up, and we're just going to switch sides and repeat that on the opposite side. So if you're very flexible and you're finding, I'm really not feeling very much in my hips, then walk the edges of your feet a little further away, and you may start to feel some of that restriction, especially as you begin to bend forward. So if you're ready to get to the next step, then eyes down, chin down, roll the shoulders, and fold forward. And breathe. And that place where we are finding a balance between effort, sensation, and intensity is what we refer to as the optimal. So find your optimal and breathe. When you're ready, press yourself to come sitting all the way up again. And we'll switch sides once again. So if you're brand new to Kaiut, you may be feeling some kind of way in your hips. If that's you, then pause the video right now and allow yourself some time to integrate. So get up and walk around the space, maybe make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and then come back down to the mat because we'll be waiting here for you. If you're ready to move on, we're doing another version of what we just did. The pose is called Sukhasana. This time we're going to add a little bit of a spiral motion. So we start, we've got our right leg in front again, same boxy shape. And we look down, chin down, roll the shoulders, and we come forward, but not as far as our optimal. So we're going to stop just before the optimal. And we'll walk our torso over to the right. So my torso is in alignment with my right thigh. I'm going to take my right hand and press firmly into the mat. And you can see when I do that, that my body weight shifts over to the left. So that's step number one. Then I'm going to take my left arm and place it over my knee. And then I begin my forward fold. So without this arm in the way, if I folded forward, I would be going straight down. Since my arm is in the way, a spiral motion begins to happen. So you can see my head begins to turn and my body just spirals over to the right. And I'm trying to pull my right ribs away and then also bring my left ribs closer to this inside of the right thigh, creating a spiral and not trying to twist or effort, but really just relax into the shape and allow the shape to do the work. And approaching this again with that restful mindset. Some of us may not feel very relaxed or comfortable in this position. Maybe a little bit more difficult to breathe. But we can always bring that restful mindset. And when you're ready to come out of this pose, we walk into the middle and we pause. We want to allow that spiral to resolve itself as we transition to the other side. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And I want to remind you, if you're new to Kaiut and you're feeling it in your hips, it's okay to pause, get up and walk around, and then come right back. But if you're moving on, come to this opposite side, align your torso with your left thigh bone. I'm going to take my left hand now, press it into the ground, and you can see my body weight shift over to the right. Now I'm going to take my right arm, my right hand, and I'm going to stretch it over that left knee. And then as I fold forward, a spiral begins to happen. I'm not trying to twist my body in that direction. I'm just folding forward and allowing the spiral shape to happen. And breathe. So you'll see my head is following the spiral shape. I'm not twisting it, but it does want to move in that direction toward the back wall or even looking up at the ceiling, depending on your degree of flexibility. And breathe. Again, it's a little bit more challenging to breathe in these spiral motions, but bring that restful mindset to it. Then we'll release the spiral, come into the middle again, middle neutral, and relax. Then press yourself to come sitting all the way up, and we'll repeat on the opposite side. So I'm going to bring my left shin in front now. And I cast my eyes down, chin down, roll the shoulders, fold down, and I'm stopping just before my optimal and moving over to the left. We'll start on the left side this time. So aligning my torso with my thigh bone, taking that left hand, pressing it into the ground, into the floor, into my bolster if I'm sitting on multiple bolsters. Then I'll take my right arm, extend it over that left knee, and then just fold forward and feel the spiral happen. And guess what? We have switched the position of the legs. And even though we just did this left side earlier, it feels different. Just because we have two of something on our bodies doesn't mean that they are positioned exactly the same. And so they'll feel different. And we breathe. Taking that sustainable notion again, what if we were here for an hour? What would that mean in terms of how you approach the shape? And now walking yourself into the middle. Relaxing again just above optimal. Just long enough to allow the sensations of that left side to resolve and subside. And then we walk over to the right side. Aligning the torso with the right thigh bone. Taking my right hand, pressing into the floor to shift my body weight over to the left. Take my left arm, extend it over that right knee, and I fold forward. The spiral isn't something I'm trying to do. It's something that happens. And we relax here, breathe here. And start looking for any transference of tension. So the only effort that's happening in this shape is my right palm pressing into the floor. So if I'm clenching my buttocks or I'm wrenching up my face or something, it's not helping the posture. So scan the body, look for any indications of transference of that tension and see if you can encourage it to let go. And breathe. When you're ready, walking back toward the middle. Allow the transition to happen. Press yourself to come sitting all the way up. And we're going to transition to lying on our backs now, but I encourage you, if you're feeling something in your knees, if you're feeling something in your hips, try not to shake them out. Just allow the sensations to resolve themselves if you can. So I'm going to bring my bolster to the edge of my mat and transition to come lying on the back. I have a vulnerable lower back, and so whenever I come into these postures where we start lying down, I always start with my knees bent until I can feel a degree of safety in my lower back. When I start to feel my lower back relax a little bit, then I'll extend my legs. So feel free, if you have vulnerability in your lower back, just to keep your knees bent the whole time. That's totally fine. We're just going to take a few breaths here before coming into the next shape. Allowing those hip flexors to completely extend now. Allow some of the sensations in the hips to resolve. Maybe the knees eyes. And we breathe. When you're ready, bend the knees. The feet are flat on the floor. And we're going to interlace the hands together. And I've got my left pointer finger in front. Grab a hold of your right shin. And we're going to press the leg closer to the body and also draw it in toward the shoulder. Now, if you're pregnant, you're going to want to give your belly more room and angle it over beyond the shoulder, maybe closer to the armpit area. But if you have the ability, even if you've got a larger midsection, press that shin down toward the body as you're drawing the knee in toward your shoulder. So this is leg work. This is, you might feel a little bit of a pinch in the fold of your leg, in those hip flexors. This is also hand work. We do a lot of ninja hand work in Kaiut. And release that leg. Now I'm going to ask you to switch the position of your fingers. So now I'm going to have my right index finger in front. I'm going to do the same thing with that left shin. Going to get a nice good hold on it. I'm keeping the foot relaxed, pressing the leg down and then pulling it in toward the shoulder. So I feel a pinch in the hip flexor. I also feel a little bit of stretch in the glute. It's not what we're going for necessarily, that stretch in the glute, but it's fine. So don't try to intensify the stretchiness, the stretchy feeling in the glute. But if you're feeling a pinch in the hip flexor, that's a good sign. And breathe. Remember, this is hand work too. So pressing directly down onto that shin, you might start to feel your hands feel a little fatigue, and that's fine. When you're ready, release that leg. Unclasp the hands and again, resist the urge to shake them out. Just let them relax at your sides. And maybe you'll notice the difference in how your pelvis is in contact with your mat or the rug or the floor now than when we first started the pose. And once again, since we've been lying with our spine on the floor directly, even though we've curved it by bringing in the knees, we want to transition to the next pose gently. So one thing is I want to allow my spine to experience not having the force of gravity directly on it. And I'm also giving my body a little bit of transition with the blood pressure so that I don't feel lightheaded when I press myself to come sitting up. Then when you're ready, do press yourself to come sitting up and position your pillow or bolster along the long end of your mat because you're going to want some space for your heels. So we start this position opening the legs wide in a V, but not for the purpose of creating stretchy sensation. So if you're very flexible, then find a place where you're just not feeling any sensation at all. If you're like me, I'm kind of middle of the road, flexible in this posture, and I'm choosing something I can feel a little bit of a sensation in the inner thigh and the groin, but it's not distracting, and it's certainly not the main focus of this posture. So we're starting here, and I look over at my ankles to see where they're positioned, and I have to adjust them because I want the center point of the heel straight down on the mat. So if I, without any intention or effort, if I let it be, you can see this leg kind of goes in and this leg goes out. So I need to rotate that one out and bring both center heels into being solidly on the mat. So starting here, we're going to do the same motion as we did in Sukhasana. So casting the eyes down, chin comes to the chest, roll the shoulders a little bit. And we're just going to relax forward, finding our optimal. So even if you can come all the way down and your forehead can come all the way down to touch the floor, don't. Because if you have more flexibility, if you're that flexible, then what we're trying to do for you is to create more stability. So for those of us with less flexibility, we're trying to create more mobility. And mobility is that healthy ability of the joints to move. So some of us need more flexibility, some of us need more stability. So relaxing here. At this stage, feeling solid and safe. Now flex the right foot. So I'm keeping my calf, I'm keeping my ankle on the floor. The activity of the foot flexion is actually coming from inside the hip joint. So it's as if I'm pressing my leg out of that joint. I'm feeling the energy down the back of my leg, and then I peel my toes in towards my shin, and I stay here. The left leg is just center heel on the mat, and we breathe. When you're ready, release that right leg flexion, and we're going to do that on the left side. So we flex through that left foot, and you can see I engage my quads here, right? The activity is in this hip joint. It's going down the length of my leg, out my heel, and then I'm pulling those toes back. I have to look over and make sure I've got a neutral position, center heel on the mat with that right foot. My right foot should not be doing anything other than maintaining that neutral rotation. And we breathe. Now sometimes if you're not used to this, or if you have a rotation in your hip, you might feel a cramp start deep inside that hip socket. If that's disturbing to you, then stop. Come out of the pose and just release and relax. For me, when I start to feel those cramps, I've done this enough times to know it's going to resolve. So for my body, I'm okay with the cramp and letting it continue to resolution. Now we will all release that left flexion and press ourselves to come sitting all the way up. And release. Relax a little bit. So for this next version of that posture, we're going to move from the bolster onto the floor if that's available to you. You can certainly stay on the pillow or bolster if you like. And we will flex both feet this time. So again, that action is starting deep in the hip socket, pressing down the length of the legs, out through the heels and peeling back the toes. And this time I'm going to align the right side of my body with my right thigh, and I'll bring my left hand on my left hip, and I'm going to move that elbow back, kind of like a chicken wing. And when I do that, my right arm is going to extend forward, and maybe I can crawl it a little further forward. And notice what's happening. I've got another spiral shape coming into play. There's not effort here, it's just happening. So staying here, breathe for a moment. And again, you may experience a little bit of cramping with both feet flexed. And in this posture, if it's available to you, you can certainly keep your hand exactly where it is. But if it's available to you, then you can press it directly over that right foot. And stay. And breathe. Both feet are flexed, pressing through those heels, peeling the toes back. And relax the hand down, release your chicken wing, and then allow your body to come back into middle neutral and allow that spiral to resolve. Just transition and adapt. Feet are still flexed. I'm still pressing through those heels. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. So I'm aligning the left side with my left thigh. Bring my right hand onto my right hip this time. Pull that chicken wing back and extend that left hand. And you can see the spiral just naturally starts to happen. Now for me, there's a dramatic difference between the right side and the left side. So again, just because we have two of something doesn't mean they're the same. They may be assembled differently. I know that I've got a little bit of a different rotation in my right hip socket than I do in my left, and that causes some tension in my lower back. So I'm just paying attention to that. If it's available to you, then you can raise that right hand raise the left hand over the left foot and stay here. And breathe. Feet are still flexed. Release that hand down, release your chicken wing, walk yourself back into the middle. Feet are still flexed. Now, release the feet. Don't try and put them in the opposite position. Don't try and point them. Just release the flex and stay here for a minute. And breathe. When you're ready, we're going to flex both feet again. So look and make sure you're starting with your heels in that center point on the mat. I'm pressing out of the hip socket, down each leg through the heels, pulling those toes back. And here now I'm going to relax forward. I'm not coming all the way to my optimal. I'm stopping just before then. And I'm going to start with the right hand. I'm going to shift that as close to the right ankle as I can. And maybe this is where you stay. Maybe you're even closer here or maybe here. All of that is fine. This is all directional, not a goal. If you're able to move on, then lift that right arm over the right foot again. And this time, effort, a little bit of effort. I want to maintain a center line, but press my arm as if I'm pressing it out of its socket so that I'm moving it away from the spine. And breathe. Where's that restful mindset? Sustainable effort, sustainable intensity. And then relax the hand down. Walking into the middle, we're keeping those feet flexed. This is a lot of feet flexion. You're going to feel it in your ankles today, for sure. Same thing on the left side. Walk it over to the left, and again, you may be here today, you may be here today, you may be able to reach all the way to your ankle, and maybe that's where you stay. But if you can move on, then reach that left hand over the left foot and pressing out through the fingertips from the shoulder socket, as if you're feeling that arm move away from the spine. Bringing that restful attitude. It's not a relaxing pose, but the way that I'm approaching it is with strength and not aggression. When you're ready, relax that hand down, walk yourself back into the middle. And I'm realizing now I've been kind of clenching my butt a little bit, and that isn't really helping the pose. And so that's why we scan the body, looking for that tension transference. Usually it's for stability, right? But if we can let go of that, if we can approach these postures with safety, then our body begins to trust us and doesn't go into that defensive posture. So this time now, we're going to walk our hands out to both ankles. And again, if you're here today, that's great. If you can walk it closer to your ankles, then do that. If you can go one step further, then we're going to bring the hands, both hands, over both feet. And if you can go even further than that, then you'll curve your spine as if you're pressing your spine into your back body, into that skin on the back of your body. So you're really pressing these arms out, moving them away from the spine. And breathe. Still flexing those feet. And when you're ready, relax the hands down. Bring yourself back into neutral middle. And now finally, let's release those feet. Oh, that feels good. And just stay here. Maybe you like to move a little bit further forward and just relax that torso forward. Here again, you can increase intensity by pulling yourself forward using your fingertips and pressing into the floor, or you can use the heel of your hand and press yourself back for decreasing the intensity. And when you're ready, press yourself to come sitting all the way up. So we return to our bolster, and we're coming back into Sukhasana, which is our version of easy pose. The ankles are a little bit further away from the groin, as in other traditions, and the legs are in a little bit boxier of a shape. And since we are a little bit further along in our practice today, you may find that you're a little bit more flexible, that more range of movement is available to you. But we're going to start, as we do, by sitting and feeling the weight of our body drop into the bolster first, and then drop the eyes down, the chin down, roll the shoulders, and bend forward, melt forward, using the hands to brace us, finding that optimal position where we're balancing sensation, effort, and just finding that place where it feels safe. Using the hands to moderate the angle so we can press the heels of the hands into the mat to decrease the sensation and the intensity in the hips. Or if we want a little bit more, we can press those fingertips into the mat and draw ourselves forward. Just allowing the head to completely relax down. And as it happens, as we stay in the shape, in Kaiut, we place our bodies into the shape, we create the shape, and then we leave it. And the body works in partnership with gravity to do the work, to have the impact. Allow your awareness to wash through the body and find those places where they may be still kind of sneakily holding on. Just encourage your body, using your breath on each exhale, to release one shade more. Inhale deeply. As you exhale, use the hands to walk yourself back into a seated position. And then we'll repeat on the other side. So left leg comes in front, same shape. And if you're not really feeling anything in your hips, a good thing to do is to scoot the outer edge of your feet away from one another. That will uncover more restriction if you're looking for more sensation. This is usually if you have more flexibility. You can also always come down onto the floor instead of the bolster. But if you have some clear restrictions that are speaking to you already in this pose, then stick with your bolster or even increase the height. So starting as we do, feeling the weight of the body sink into the bolster, cast the eyes down, chin down, roll the shoulders, bend forward, melt forward, using the arms to brace us, and just noticing we've done this shape before in this sequence, and we've done it on the other side already, but each time is its own thing. Each time is new. So stay curious. And in this sequence, we've been bending forward, and then we've been on our backs, and then we come back to flexing forward. So we're really working on that mobility of the spine. And breathe. I'm going to use my hands and kind of press myself back a little bit because I'm feeling too much sensation in the hips. I'm even going to scoot my feet a little closer together. That's a little better. So the longer we do these shapes, sometimes the restrictions they speak to us louder. Instead of becoming more accessible to us, maybe at some point we've gone a little bit too far and we need to come back, and that's totally fine. Be where you are in this moment. And don't assume just because you went to a certain depth before in the sequence that is the same depth or you're going to go further. Sometimes you have to back off. And breathe. Inhale deeply. As we exhale, press yourself to come sitting all the way back up again. And now we'll transition to come lying on the back. We'll move your bolster to the end of your mat, lying on the back. Support the head and the neck with the bolster. Really kind of tuck the edge of the bolster into those tops of our shoulders, our trapezius muscles. And start with the knees bent, feet flat on the floor, until you feel the sensation in the lower back dissolve. Maybe you're feeling it strongly now since we're toward the end of the sequence, or maybe it's a little looser. Either way, just allow yourself to be here until you feel that lower back broaden and relax. Feel my body sink into the floor. Then I'm going to extend one leg per time, just so I can feel that full release of the hip flexors. Arms or palms face up on the ground, neutral position. And breathe. When you're ready, bend the knees, bring the feet flat on the floor. And once again, we're going to draw the knee in towards the shoulder. So interlace those fingers and pay attention to which index finger is in front. Grab a hold of that shin, press it down, and then bring it toward your shoulder. And again, if you are pregnant, then you may want to rotate that leg out to the side, give some room for bébé. But if you are able to otherwise and are not pregnant, then press that shin in toward the body, press the knee in toward the shoulder. And again, this is handwork as much as anything else. You may feel a pinch. And just notice, how does this feel? We've done this shape before today. So how does it feel different now, this second time around? For me, I'm loving the release of the lower back into the floor, pressing my lower back into the floor. Release that leg, keeping the knees bent, feet are flat on the floor. I'm going to switch the position of my hands and bring it to that left shin. Same thing, pressing it down and then bringing the knee in towards the shoulder. Adjusting and adapting as you need to. Remembering this is handwork as much as anything else. So without aggression, but with strength. Pulling that shin in toward you and your knee in toward your shoulder. And breathe. Release that leg back down. Release your hands and resist the urge to shake them out. Just let the sensation resolve. And hug the knees and the ankles a little bit closer in toward one another. And pay attention to how your lower back and your pelvis are related to the floor or to your mat right now. So not asking you to press that lower spine into the floor or change anything about your pelvis. Just notice where it is before we begin motion, before we add action to this. So with the knees and the ankles pressed toward one another and keeping the pelvis exactly as it is, I'm going to extend my right leg and then flex the ankle once again. So remember, the action of an ankle flexion starts in the hip socket. I'm pressing down the length of my leg as if someone is kind of pulling, helping to pull that leg away. and peeling the toes in toward the shin. But I'm controlling this so that my pelvis remains unchanged. The position of my pelvis relative to the floor remains unchanged. So even though there's action of pressing out through that hip socket, it's not shifting the pelvis, right? I'm keeping the pelvis exactly as it was as I envision the thought of this leg moving out of the socket, pressing through that heel, peeling those toes back. And if you start to feel your leg shake, if you start to get cramps, you can always come out of this and just wait until we do the other side. Now we'll all release that foot flexion first. Bend the knee, replace the foot on the floor, and re-baseline. So you've just done something that has changed your body. So check in once again with where your pelvis is relative to your mat or your rug or the floor, and just notice. And know that we're getting ready to introduce action in this left leg, but the goal is I want to introduce that action. I want the movement of my leg to be independent of my pelvis. So hugging those knees and ankles and feet in close together, just going to extend that left leg and then press through the heel, flexing the foot, peeling the toes back. The action of the flexed foot starts in this hip socket, moving all the way down the length of the leg, through the heel, peeling those toes back, flexing strongly but never aggressively. That's one of the things that I love about Kaiut, is that more effort doesn't necessarily produce more or faster results, because it's about finding the balance point. Once you push your body beyond that balance point, then it will respond with less trust and more defensiveness, and you won't be able to get to where you need to go. I'm starting to feel some distracting cramps happening in my quadriceps, so this is where I stop. I release the flex of the foot, I bend my knee, replace the foot on the floor, and I relax here. Oh, you've done some good work today. And for our final posture, Shavasana, if this feels comfortable to you, if your lower back feels put upon, you can always stay with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. Or if it's even more relaxing, you can open the feet to the width of the mat and let the knees knock together and relax here. You can always find a second bolster and put that under your thighs if you would like to extend your legs, but you also want to decrease the severity of the curve of the lower back, which is what gives us a little bit of muscle pain there. Or you can just release your leg one per time. And open the hands, palms face up toward the ceiling. Make any adjustments that you need to. And in a lot of videos, they will end the class here, because I really respect the fact that this is a pose in its own right. Then I'm going to stay with you for this last final posture. It's going to be a little bit long, and we're just going to be here and breathe. Start scanning the body part by part, just noticing any place where you are unintentionally holding any tension, any effort. And be in dialogue with that body part and just let it go. And just as we did in the beginning, if it's helpful to imagine the earth or the floor or your rug or your mat, accepting the weight of your body on each exhale. Then feel free to use that as a tool for your mind. And we're going to stay here and just breathe for a few moments. When you're ready, take a deep breath in. Exhale. Start to bring some small movements back in, wiggling the fingers and the toes, and then making those movements bigger and bigger. Stretching up and back if you're waking up for the first time today, and then roll over onto one side. We've once again had that spine right on the floor with the force of gravity. So we want to give it a moment just to wake up and give our circulatory system some time to catch up. And when you're ready, press yourself to come sitting all the way up. Come back onto your pillow or bolster, and we'll close our practice. It's winter here in Indiana at the taping of this, so it's going to feel great to rub the palms of the hands together, generate a little bit of heat. There's also an acupressure point in the middle of the palm that corresponds with the heart center. So press the palms of the hands together, feel that heat and tingle. Bring the knuckles of the thumbs into the heart center, deep breath in, and exhale. Thank you for sharing your practice today. Hopefully there was a nugget in there that you find useful and that you can carry with you throughout your day, throughout your week, until we're able to practice together again. Thank you.